and this is Mr. Colin Strand, and he is a teacher at Granada Hills Charter High. He teaches AP Psychology and has a master in sports psychology. Okay, so what are the parts of the brain that are activated during problem solving?
Okay, so the frontal lobe uh, is a so the frontal lobe is the part of the brain that's going to be doing most of the problem solving, and the cortices within the frontal lobe. That's where our decision making and our logical thinking and our rational judgments are active.
Okay. Do children use these parts in the same proportion as adults do?
Um, they are developing very rapidly in children, but they are not fully developed until about 18 to the early 20s, 18 years of age to the early 20s. And so, what's happening in a child's brain is you have the frontal lobe that's developing, but you also have the amygdala, which is fully developed. And the amygdala is the emotional center of the brain. And that's where fear and aggression and excitement and impulse are located. And so, without a fully functioning frontal lobe, the amygdala is really the driving force behind the behavior of a child at that point.
Uh, could you tell me what white matter is and what it is for?
So, white matter are the association areas in the brain. And what I mean by that is there's all these different cortices in the brain that are responsible for different behaviors and abilities. So that's called localization. And connecting all of these cortices together so that they can talk to each other in a cohesive, fast, fluid way is the gray matter. And the gray matter allows all of the neurons in the brain to be able to connect and communicate. So the more gray matter you have, the faster your brain's going to be able to process information.
Okay. What are human beings' natural tendencies?
The natural tendency, there are three motivators for humans. First one's food. Food keeps us alive, right? Day to day, food and water. The second one is sex. That keeps our species alive for as long as we can be on this earth. And the third motivator is the need to belong. So food fulfills our biological needs. Sex fulfills our need as a species to survive long term, and the need to belong fulfills our social need to be accepted by groups. And so a lot of our behaviors will be driven by food, sex, and needing to belong and connect to other people.
So, do you believe that we have free will from birth on?
As opposed to being
Totally free, and we have all kinds of choices, and it's up to us which choices we
okay. Yes, I believe that we have free will, and although we can, so yes, I do believe that we have free will. Although it seems like we can be slaves to our genetic code, seems like we can be slaves to our biochemistry. Um, I think self awareness. I think reflecting on our situation. I think that being able to see where we're making mistakes and how we can improve, as long as we go through that cognitive process, we can kind of break the genetic and biological chains. Otherwise, we're just a slave to whatever biochemistry we have.
So, our surroundings influence our choices?
The way that we process our surroundings can influence our choices.
If a minor is tried as an adult, is there brain research to support this decision?
All the brain research says that the child brain and the teenage brain are still developing. And so until a brain is fully developed, you can't consider that individual as an adult capable of making completely, fully rational decisions because the amygdala is really the driving force. So, for instance, an adult might choose to not get into a car with a drunk driver, even though that driver is their friend. because rationally, logically, we're thinking my life is more important than this friendship. But a teenager whose amygdala is much more active than an adult might make the decision, yes, I will get into this car because I don't want this friend to not like me. It's more of an emotional decision. They're acting on that need to belong, that need to connect to other people. And the frontal lobe isn't developed enough to say, you know what, this isn't a good idea, and you need to put ration and you need rationality and logic. You need to base your decision on that.
Okay, so you don't believe that there's any justification for trying a minor
Well, it's a difficult question because uh, children can commit adult style, like adult crimes, right? Very violent crimes. So,
as such as a murder?
such as murder, right? Okay, so when you have a situation like this, I would say that you have to consider brain research before sentencing a child. But that does not mean that I'm saying that there should not be consequences,
Right.
right? Because there's a lot of kids walking around who are not committing murder, who are not doing these bad things. And so, yes, take brain development into account, but you also need to, justice also needs to happen. And I think that justice in this case is rehabilitation, like making sure that that child now has access to the tools and the environment that are going to allow for proper brain development, for better choices in the future, to then become a productive citizen.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.